Right, well, welcome back to part 2 of episode 59. I've been listening to the Moon and the Water podcast, which has changed hosts again. And this I don't know yet. Obviously, the Ellis and what's his name had it before, and they were again. They were a bit thin.
Ellis
The
and
new
John.
guys, yeah, the new guys are all right. Again, one of them's a comedian. One of them is the guy off the what's that? That kind of show where they all have to do. So it's called a Challenger or something with what's his face?
Taskmaster.
Taskmaster. He's
Yeah,
a little
Taskmaster.
sidekick off there. But I mean, the first few episodes, they both admit they don't drink very much, and they like go.
Yeah.
They're trying to do like 52
Alex
pubs in a
Horn.
year. Yeah, and then the long hair with the mustache is the main guy. I can't remember his name. I should know his name. But anyway, they always do a part 1 and a part 2. So I said, you know what?
Long hair and moustache.
Yeah. No, long hair, not short hair. Instead of me flecking about trying to edit 2 bits together, we're just going to do part 1 and part 2. And actually, it's probably easy because it keeps it to about 35 minutes. So, and as you can tell, probably listeners, we're cheapskates. We're refusing to pay Americans or maybe Canadians actually to pay the Zoom full professional fee, which is extortionate now. It's gone up so much. I guess because they've lost a lot of business because people are back to normal. So anyway, episode 59.
Anybody wants to send us £100 and then we can go.
Yeah,
back
well,
to the
you know what?
again.
I'm playing with the patronage, and we probably don't quite do enough content yet to be able to. But they do keep throwing that at me, so it's something we may consider in the future. And obviously, I know that certainly with the Beer O'Clock show and others, that's really helped them because that's what they used to do to pay for their Zoom license and everything. So anyway, we'll crack on. So in part 1, we had a quick talk a little bit about bars and lounges. We had a quick roundup of some beery news, and we just listened to these 2 guys on their London trips. So Bruce, you've also got to tell us a little bit about Lincoln, and then I think you've also got some tales from the Northwest, including, I'm guessing that did you end up on Carnforth Station and the 39 steps?
We started in Carnforth Station. Yeah, we started in Carnforth Station.
So go on, start with your Northwest trip then. So although there's a whole mix here, because you're in Saltaire on one of these pictures as well. So I'll just track Bruce by his WhatsApp messages.
Yeah, we set off one day to go to. Do we know me and Nick especially operate on the Northern Rail £10 all day tickets, which we save our newspaper vouchers for. And he's supposed to be able to travel the entire length of North of England from sort of pretty much the borders down to Chester and Nottingham for £10, which seems like a bargain to actually start doing. And then the cancellations come thick and fast. So our first attempt to get to Cumbria failed miserably. Then the second time we set off to go to Hull, there was no signals at Hull station, so we ended up going to Skipton. But anyway, we did get to the day we went to Skipton there. I say we had a fantastic trip to Skipton. And called the Boatmaker's Arms, I think, on a Friday tea time. And so it was absolutely rammed to the gunnels. And we often reminisce about what Timothy Taylor's beer used to be. I have to say that the Boatmakers, the last 2 or 3 times I've been, it is almost like the landlord of old. Very few people are turning out landlord like they are now. That lady's got it absolutely singing. And really, if you're drinking landlord, it's when you've been there, everything else is disappointing. It does taste, never not quite remember it, but it's in fantastic form. And I say, best beer so far. We then jumped back on the train to Saltaire, which was about 8 minutes out of Keighley, to Fanny's alehouse, and a huge range of beers now in Fanny's alehouse. I'm not entirely certain who's operating it. I believe it's been taken over, but I'm not sure about who. But incredible range of cask beers on there, almost about 2 dozen pumps, packed again with people. People are making it. It's a real destination place to go now. But I say the Stubby Gold Pale Ale we had was, I think, the best part I've had this year. It was absolutely stunning. Have you tried this at all, either of you two?
No, I don't think I've.
There's a brewery, bro. Stubby. Never heard of it.
I went to a bit of research on it. I say it was absolutely fantastic. You could have sat there and drunk pint after pint of it, and I say, and the kids were chuffed because they had bags of those mini poppadoms. We don't get in this neck of the woods, so they were in the company so they were most enthralled with
they're
that.
not cheap, though, are they?
No, they're really Moorish, aren't they? Yeah, wish they'd been in York. But yeah, that beer was
Bradford. Stubby Brewery in Bradford.
Yeah, so it's local then. Beer was absolutely out of the world.
And of course, the irony is that obviously Saltaire is a little bit of a beer desert because that was the whole point.
Yeah.
That Sir Titus Salt, who built the place and built the thing, was a teetotaler, so wouldn't allow any alcoholic beverage anywhere in the town. And I mean, there are pubs in there now, but a lot of them are kind of big chain pubs. Apart from Fanny's, which has probably been there again since we were drinking back in the late 80s, wasn't it? So it's been there, and like you say, it's not the most lubrious place, is it? But it's like you say, a little bit of a oasis.
Paradise.
No, it has changed inside though, Mike.
Yeah,
there's a lot of more brewery. They always have an upstairs area now that just really like a basically spit and polish meeting room, and that's all better now. So
pushed up,
it has changed hands a couple of times, but it's still very cool. But it was quite nice rather than working into club formica tables and a bit sparse.
Very good.
Yeah, so we also did eventually go to Cumbria again. It turned to be an ill-fated day. But went to Carnforth first, where the visitor centre is absolutely fantastic because of the Brief Encounter tea room, because Brief Encounter was famously filmed there. David Lean's first film. And the visitor centre is for £2.50 to go around. It's absolutely amazing. Staffed by volunteers. Fantastic job. Sadly, the pub on the station was closed because that looked really good. Does it up till 4 o'clock. But we did go across to the hotel across the road. Whilst the bar was a bit sore, it's had a decent choice of beers on. We then went to Markham, where the famous hotel, the Midland Big Art Deco Hotel, has now been taken over by the Inn Collection, who were paid to be buying every hotel in the north of England. It was quite posh, the Midland Hotel, but they've actually made it accessible now. So there's an Art Deco bar they've opened up, and then the front bit overlooking the sea, the bay. They've made that into a bar, so it's thriving, but sadly, no cask beer yet, but they are working on it. But sadly, the Paladine, which appeared to be the only decent pub in Markham, wasn't showing us closed on Google, but we got down there and sadly it was boarded up. So Markham is a proper beer desert. We did end up in a backstreet Thwaites pub, and of course, Thwaites pub are quite salubrious. This one definitely wasn't. Was quite cheered by the sight of 3 cask ales, but the woman said she's not used them in years. 3 cask pumps just there for decoration. But definitely pub of the day.
There is Bartholomew, Bruce.
Pardon?
There is the Eric Bartholomew.
Weatherspoons.
No, Weatherspoons.
Weatherspoons named after Morecambe and Wise. Yeah.
I could imagine the Weatherspoons Morecambe being overpowered with the one in Scarborough. Although someone did actually say it is quite nice.
It's on a soulless shopping precinct with half the shops closed. It's a bit like that time we went to Rotherham. Bloke selling sports socks, 3 pairs for a £5.
Right, well, just to interject slightly, I'm now moving on to some Norwegian beer, which has come out like an ice cream top, which is it did go very quick actually. So this is interesting. This is Edmondson's Refraction of Light, a hazy session IPA. Although it says it's brewed in the EU, and I didn't know Norway was in the EU because Mr. Farage keeps telling us about how wonderful they are not being in the EU. Oh. So anyway, it's very tasty actually. It's
really interesting. Amazing, isn't it? Our best bet, we did have time. We very nearly got stranded in Morecambe thanks to Northern Rail. So so we popped up in a horrendous. We popped on a Vanti train down to Preston via Lancaster to come off the Blackpool line. But we did have time to go into the new Lancaster Brewery Station tap at Lancaster Station, the Tython Lock. Lovely building. An absolutely fantastic Lancaster Brewery beers there as well. That thing in the middle of the bar is a big Czech beer dispensing engine. But yeah, for Lancaster, fantastic. Sadly, though, thanks to
Lancaster, it's not a big station, but one side they're all the traditional buildings, aren't they?
Yeah,
So they must have just once again found a room that's not been used for the last 30, 40 years and just use that. It looks good.
It was very good, yeah.
Very good. So again, as I said, we've been here and there. I've been much more local, really. So just a little bit of update to me. I managed to get you a picture of the Victoria Lounge because I was in a lounge feature. So I was chatting to Bruce online when I went in there. This is what was used to be the old Ray Reardon Snooker Centre up in Hanley in Stoke-on-Trent. And it's a place, if you go on a Saturday lunchtime, it's absolutely rammed because they do a Sunday dinner for about £4.30. And virtually every old person in Stoke must go there on a Sunday. So it's absolutely However, they do actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 real ales on as well. It's always had a bit of a reputation. Nobody's drinking real ale, by the way. They're all drinking pints of Madry with the Sunday lunch and gin and tonics. But they had a very fine. In fact, they had Ash over, which I know somebody's got that on one of their. Maybe I think Bruce Lincoln one that we probably need to come back on and have a look at. So that was very, very good. And then I did pop in the Coach Makers, which I think we've mentioned before. The Coach Makers is another kind of legendary Stoke pub. People like Roger Porritz and people have been involved in it because it was going to be knocked down when they were going to build a new bus station. In fact, a new bus station actually is now opposite because we saved it. And that little bit of land that it sits on, which a bit like Sheffield, Nick, it's kind of the one bit that's left. They've left one little corner of terrace house in this terrace pub, and all around it has been completely flattened. The bus station is quite nice opposite the road. It's a very 21st century bus station. But the Coach Makers hangs on. I'd been in for a few years and I'd forgotten actually how shit it is. Not it's shit, but the building. So the labs are still outside around the back, and they are still like they were built in the 1910s. There's some Minton tiles there for those on YouTube. It's got the side hatch, so this has got a front little snug bar, which is very nice, very very similar to Dolly's, very similar to the old Golden Lion in Malton, with that little front bar onto a little snug, and then it's got 4 rooms. The room behind the bar is just an absolute tip. It's just tip, it's got bikes and stuff left in it and washing machines. So actually, I went in the lounge on the left hand side, which is very interesting because the 4 blokes were sat just at the corner. Shouting randomly, conversation nobody else was listening to, just having their own conversation. Anyway, the beer was all right. It wasn't great, but it was all right. They only normally have had 3 or 4 beers on, so that was quite good. And then it went back up to Newcastle. Interestingly, the Titanic are doing quite a few different beers, so they were doing a Dr. Rudy, which was very nice. Actually, that's quite a nice pale. And they also did quite a lot of those Stansell beers, which are quite nice as well. I think they're Derbyshire based, which was very good. So that was my little trek. Then I also managed to get down to Tenby again in May. So I know we've done a little session on Tenby, but I was determined this time to go to the places that I hadn't got into last time. So Tenby is really a fantastic beer venue. And in fact, again, Bruce's Real Ale Craft Guide is a really good summary of it. So one thing we talked about last time, there's 2 breweries in Tenby, which for a little village is a little smallish, kind of smaller than Whitby. It's quite, it's quite something. This is the Tenby Brewing Company. They're based in what's called the Saltines, which is just behind the railway station in kind of a bit where they used to make salt. So it's very flat, very marshy. There's a big park and ride car park here. And down the side of it is the brewery. Interestingly, you can hardly get their beer anywhere in town, because Molson Coors pretty much have got all of Tenby in a squeeze. So the Tenby Harbour Brewery, they have their own pubs in the town. So I think they have 2 pubs in the town, and one at nearest Saundersfoot. And so that's great. But I say Tenby Brewing, you don't see their beers in Tenby itself because they say we just can't get in because Molson Coors just won't let them in. So they've got a tap in town, and they've got a tap in nearby Narberth, and that's where they do the street food and the beer together, which is quite a nice combination, really. But what they do have, which is only open on the weekends, and you go in Tenby, just be aware of that, is this very nice outdoor bar next to the brewery. It literally is in a car park, but as you can see, again, if you're on YouTube, there's a lovely big kind of outdoor tenty thing. The actual bar is in a container, so it's that brown thing towards the back of the thing. It's just a steel container they built the bar into. As you can see there, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 beers and 2 ciders on draft ciders. It is keg. They don't do any cask beer because again they just said they can't sell cask beer because there's nobody in town will have it. So they constant keg. There's that one Son of the Beach that Nick was drinking in Wetherspoons in London. That's one of their standouts. They had a really good Indian street food guy in a trailer. He wasn't Indian actually; he was from Cardiff, but he said he loves working there. Really nice food. So definitely worth a trip down to Tenby Brewing. We had a cracking first night because we decided we were going to go in the roughest pub in Tenby, which is the Three Mariners. Which I'm trying to think. It's a bit like one of those on the front in Scarborough, basically. And this is almost a front in Tenby. So we went in there, and it was actually quiz night when we got there, and we ended up winning the quiz. So the three of us, it was supposed to be the brother-in-law and sister-in-law were supposed to come in, but they didn't turn up in the end. So there's just me, the wife, and the son. We managed to beat everybody, and I've got to say we actually beat some people in the first round because I think we scored 23 in the first round. I think there were 9 rounds. Some people scored less than 23 in the whole quiz. We got the first round. So I'm not saying about the client. But anyway, we won 75 quid in cash. So that was very nice because that set up the rest of the week for our beer money. So that was great. They don't do any cask beer, unfortunately. But the Guinness, as you can see, the Guinness was all right, actually. The Guinness wasn't... Actually, in South Wales, you often get that because it's quite a big Irish one. Also found the only Wetherspoons in South West Wales, and that was in Haverfordwest, the William Owen, which actually typical with all Wetherspoons. This is actually tucked away in Haverfordwest, which is a very strange little place. This place was rammed. There wasn't a table free on a kind of wet Wednesday in Wales. It was absolutely rammed. So very nice, typical Wetherspoons fare. Did have some local beers on, so that was great. Again, a pub that most people in Tenby...
Kid sat up step with his skateboard.
yeah. A pub in Tenby, which again people will probably rarely go to, is the Evergreen. It's a lovely little terrace pub, which you wouldn't expect in Tenby. It's tucked away a little bit as on the back streets. Unfortunately, they had no cask beer on we got there. So, but they were doing, but they made the point about saying, well, we do kind of real ale bottles. So that was all right. It was quite nice. And then again, I did go into the Coach and Horses, and I think in my Tenby thing, we actually stayed in the apartments next to this pub, but never got in it. So actually, we ventured in it again. Unfortunately, it's a Molson Coors house, so I think they had Doom Bar on. But again, the Guinness in there was of a very nice standard. They've just actually put a new mural on the side of that pub because it's again they claim it's Tenby's oldest pub. It's also where I reckon Dylan Thomas wrote Under Milkwood somewhere in that pub potentially in the 1950s. But apparently everybody in Wales says Dylan Thomas went to their pub and wrote a poem. So they've got a new one there as well. So that was a little roundup. So we're going to set a little teaser now. So me and Bruce had quite an experience last weekend. Unfortunately, Nick couldn't get out of work. So as part of my membership of the Brewing History Society, do a number of trips throughout the year. And this trip had come up, I think, quite a while ago, and I'd flagged it up to these two. And this was a trip round Samuel Smith's old brewery in Tadcaster. So it was... I've got to say, Bruce, on a week on, I'm still trying to get my head around. It was a complete bonkers place, wasn't it?
It was absolutely,
It was a full day, and I've got to say they were very good. A 2-hour tour that was on paper ended up being nearly 4 hours. So we actually had the head brewer and the assistant head brewer took us around. We actually ended up in with the assistant head brewer. We did end up with a bit of a nerd who was some kind of brewing nerd who just asked 3,000 questions on every stage, and often we asked a question that the bloke had already answered, and he quite upset some of the other people. When we and Bruce we went with it, and they literally let us. I mean, we wandered off, didn't we? We were off quite a few times. We wandered off. So again, if you are on YouTube, one of the highlights, I think, Bruce, was going into their Yorkshire Squares room. So Sam Smith still brew very traditionally, and they were very proud about that. There's very little ultimate. Well, there's a little bit story about that, but the bitter and their ales are brewed very much in a traditional way, and they still have these Yorkshire Squares, which are, I don't know, probably 4 meters by 4 meters square, made of solid slate. The slate must be I don't know, 30 centimeters thick, these slate, and huge
It
slate
was
beds.
astonishing.
Yeah,
Absolutely astonishing.
and beer is bubbling away in them like some Willy Wonka thing. And in
It
fact,
is.
when we were there, they were brewing nut brown ale, which is interesting because we didn't think there was didn't
Yeah,
sell much of that. But he was saying actually this
yeah.
is going into cans. And then again,
Yeah,
I
for
think
America.
beer nerd said, you don't can nut brown ale. Because we do. He said the American market. So this is
Yeah,
all nut brown ale going to the American market. So in this room where we are now, I think there were 12 Yorkshire squares. We
yeah,
thought that was it. Then he started opening
exactly.
doors, and there were hundreds of these squares. There was a whole room full
Yeah,
of old brewery bitter
lying
bubbling away.
dormant.
Yeah, just lying there, dog. Oh, it was unbelievable. And as you can see there, there's, I mean, what? There was 15 of us there. There was one.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
were blokes putting their hands in that stuff and then
yeah.
tasting it. And
It
it's
works.
all open. It's all open to
It
the
is.
atmosphere. He said, yeah, that adds a little bit of interesting things to the beer. But he claims that he can condition his beer in those Yorkshire squares.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and once they leave those squares, they get wrapped into casks, and nothing else is done to it. Whereas he
It
said
was incredible.
a lot of other breweries, will have to water it down. He can pretty much get the right gravity out of those Yorkshire squares by fiddling around, and he can't get it. I have got some videos, but again, if you're on YouTube, that stuff coming out is literally beer coming out. It was
Yeah,
unbelievable. What was really
it was.
interesting
It was.
was,
See, look, and the
yeah,
tragedy was, you got all those closed pubs. The extra capacity they've got is insane. If you got the
yeah,
pubs open, the
yeah,
brew more. And sadly, they're going to be down to brewing cask beer 2 days a week, possibly out there, which is really quite
yeah.
heartbreaking.
And
But
this
for
is thing,
anybody, nothing, no other brewery will ever come
no,
close to what we saw that
no,
day.
no,
It was
and
astonishing. Yeah,
it's still very much a tower brewery. So they took us right to the top of the tower. Well, that's where the malt
yeah,
comes in. The malt comes in. They've got two machines now which are obsolete, that are milling machines that nobody makes anymore. The company's gone bust. But they managed to find some bloke in Hull who used to work there
yeah.
20, 30 years ago,
Contain them, yeah.
who knows how they work. And it literally then follows it down. They take it down, take it down, take it down. Quite a lot of it is the original 1800s brewery. But it's interesting. You're on YouTube. There's a little bloke there. There's little dapper little
Yes,
chap in his tweed,
it
and he
was.
actually
It
turned out
was.
to be Miles Jenner, who is the head
Yeah,
brewer and part of the Harvey's brewery dynasty. And he was there with his wife and son. Son was
yeah.
obviously, the heir apparent, because he was making lots of notes and
It
peering
was,
in.
yeah.
And they're a lovely family. We were chatting
Yeah.
to them, and he was just blown away. And I mean, Harvey's is a very, very traditional brewery,
Oh,
down
wonderful
in
beer
down
too.
in
Yeah.
down in Sussex. And
Best
but
beer
he
in the south
even
of England, Harvey.
even he was blown, even he was blown away by what
Yeah, I
Sam
was talking to
Smiths
his
do.
wife, and she said she just could not believe what she was seeing. You know,
Yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
when we got there, we asked the head brewer, "Do you mind if we take photographs?" And he just said, "Yeah, take as many photographs as you want." And then we said, "Well, we've
Yeah,
all brought cameras because we didn't think you'd let mobile." He goes, "Oh, you take them on what you bloody want." So we walked
yeah,
around the whole of the brewery all day with phones
yeah.
out. And in fact, the bloody people taking us round, their phones were going off non-stop, weren't they, the brewery?
Off all the way.
Oh, so
It was
it was
very
anyway.
busy.
So it was a really interesting day out, and that's just a little teaser there as we're walking down, and obviously they were brewing on that day. And John Smith's on the right, Sam Smith's on the left for those that are watching on YouTube, which is another bit of the
Yeah,
story. So we've got lots of photos. So again, I think it'll take us at least two episodes to tell you about that tale, but
well,
that's for the future. But definitely worth tuning in. And I say, I'm still reflecting on what a surreal day it was. It was the most Willy Wonka experience. I've been
yeah.
on a few breweries, but that
Nothing like
was a
that.
complete Willy Wonka experience, and the way they do things
Yeah.
is
They said
bonkers,
it was the
really.
hotbacks. The pictures of the hotbacks, and these things were just astonishing to see, weren't they? Yeah, it was great. It was absolutely amazing. It was a privilege to go and see it, really. I'll never
Yeah,
forget it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw the horses, so we saw the three. We saw Humphrey, and Champion, and I think Jack.
Yeah,
And Humphrey was a bit of
yeah,
a
yeah.
star. And big thing that he's not called Humphrey because of the owner. That was his
It's
horsey name before they bought him down in Devon. But that again, that was very interesting. They
yeah,
only have particular kind of horses. They're very, very thin. Those horses work 5 days a week, pretty much every day of the
mm,
year. 4.5
yeah,
mile delivery. They are proud to say that no other brewery now, well, while two of the breweries have horses, they don't work them like that. I
yeah,
think they said that one set of horses are only for show, and I think Thwaites only do 2 days a week or something he was saying.
Shows,
Whereas they do 5 days a week, pretty much. The horses are out, and apparently the horses, they reckon they could go on their own. They reckon the horses could actually go on their own, and they know the traffic lights. Yeah, they know some of traffic lights. They know when it's downhill. They know when it's up. They know when the pubs are. So yeah, really, really, really interesting day. So as I said, that's something in the future. Right, gents. So we'll have to meet up. So I've still collating my photos.
Hang on. I did 2 breweries on my holiday.
Well, we're gonna have a brewery session.
Brewery in
a brewery session.
Oswestry, which was very nice, especially if you're a train buff. Because it's right on the side of the Heritage Railway there. But unfortunately, the day that we went, the Heritage Railway wasn't running. But you can literally go from the centre of Oswestry on the little Heritage Railway down to the brewery. So we were early people there, and then went to the Mervyn Brewery in Barmouth, which is on the Welsh coast, and that was impressive. It's a husband and wife, and they do absolutely everything. They run the brewery. They've got their own tap there. They've actually said, I've got a sign on the tap door saying, "Oh, we'll be closing these particular days because we'll be at the brewery." No, we're not at the brewery. We're running the tap. So yeah, for a husband and wife to basically run the business themselves, fair play to them. And that was ticking over very nicely, and that was in Barmouth. It's Welsh for Merlin, so it's a Merlin brewery, and it's Myrdins, Myrdins. And so I managed 2 breweries in 4 days.
When I went to Barmouth a week, they were bloody shut all week because they'd gone on holiday.
No, that's it. Yeah.
It's a fair play to them.
Yeah.
Fair play to them.
Yeah.
So that is the plan. So the next time we meet up, we've still got some other trips, I think, to catch up on. So yeah, we've got Nick's had a Shropshire trip to maybe feedback us on. And I know that Bruce has been to Lincoln. We need to be back on. Yeah. Nick's got, again, some feedback from a new micro pub, which we have mentioned, but in Whitby, the Beer O'Clock, which we perhaps could talk a little bit about as well. And we've got the brewery trip as well. There's 2 more brewery trips left, actually, on the year for the history side. They're going to Felonfall Brewery in Llanelli, and that is in September. I think actually it might be the same week of that Holt's brewery open day. Yeah. And they're also going to Wells. Yeah, it's 4 hours for me from Crewe on the train. So the train goes direct to it, but and there's also a trip to Wells Brewery in Bedford, which again I quite like Wells beers. Yeah. So that'll be quite
Charles
nice.
Wells. Yeah. Banana bread beer.
So that'll be
about that.
Yeah. But they're owned by a bigger. In fact, that was under threat of closure, wasn't it? Isn't that the one that's possibly in the centre of the town? It's at the end of the high street.
Yeah.
So that one's got to be a very traditional brewery. So that one could be
absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, we might discuss the next one. So any beery plans for the next weekend? We've got a weekend coming up. Obviously, we've got the general election. Maybe we might be celebrating or not.
The exit polls in under 20 minutes. The exit polls in under 20 minutes.
There you go.
Actually, it was fascinating that Tim Martin, and obviously with his hand up his back, was wheeled out this week, forced by the board to say he wasn't taking a political view. He could see through grimaced teeth, obviously. His Brexit campaign, now I'm no longer political. What a toss.
Right.
Wheeled out by the board, obviously, wasn't he? Yeah. We all know he's rooting for reform and Nigel Farage, yeah. And actually, there's another interview on YouTube this week. There's something called Spiked on YouTube. It's very, very weird. I will only get interviewed by sycophants, Did you see it was on Nick Ferrar and LBC? And there's another one on YouTube, but this bloke's so sycophantic.
Anyway, we keep politics out with the show. So, Nicholas, are you got a working weekend, Nicholas, this weekend, or are you off for a...
No, yeah, we've got a ghost on Saturday night, which means I'm off Saturday during the day, but I can't drink. So
right.
Yeah, I'm working Sunday, so not doing much then really.
Obviously, the football's on Saturday night. England playing at 5 o'clock. It's the Stone Food Festival this weekend, so I'll probably be heading there. Although I've got to get some tickets, free tickets. In fact, and quite interestingly, they've got Limestone Brewery at 1:30 doing a major talk in the main marquee. And then a beer tasting with Joel's Brewery at 2:30. So I think I might be sat in that marquee for a couple of hours because last time we went, Joel's Brewery were very, very, whatever the word is, they were very generous. They gave out lots. And in fact, they gave out so many tokens, we couldn't drink how many tokens they gave us. I think I got to 13 pints and I had to stop. We did work out a little bit of a thing where...
Here's a little bit of beery facts. I say I've acquired a couple of historic pub books in the last couple of months. Whitelocks. Do you know who advertises on the door? Jules,
Jules Brew, yeah.
Well, so Jules obviously we know that Jules has been a traditional brewery, and then it went, and then it was resurrected. But surprising that they were delivering into Leeds from where they were in Staffordshire.
Jowls in 1850 was big as Bass. They were the two biggest big beers in the world. What happened was Jowls got the American market because they could go to Liverpool from Stone, Trent and Mersey to Liverpool, whereas Burton it took them longer, so they went the other way, went the Hull way, and they exported to Russia and everywhere else. But yeah, and that's why we talked a little bit about the Red Triangle, the second oldest trademark in the world, Bass being number one, but Jowls being number two.
When they were brewing, obviously there were still plenty of Yorkshire traditional breweries, and I would have thought Tetley's would have been around at that time.
Yeah, but Jowls is.
The Tetley's breweries goes back 100 years, so
just became
decided to go with a Staffordshire beer rather than a Yorkshire.
No, they were the Molson Coors of their day. Them and Bass just dominated brewing, and again they also say that those trademarks, the triangle and Red Cross, when people, you think people were very literate in those days, it's for compulsory education. That's how you knew your good beer. If you saw a Red Cross, it's good beer. If you saw a triangle, it was good beer. You could put Tetley's on, people wouldn't clue what it meant, or a huntsman, no clue. Imagine somebody waiting for it.
Bastardize the triangle for the Pale Hills when it was out there. Said the people.
The Red Cross precedes the Red Cross first aid people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so that's why Jules is still allowed to use it, because in fact it was their trademark before the Red Cross first aid people started to use it.
Yeah. So there we go then. So I say we will catch up probably in a couple of weeks or so time. So I'll try and get all these photos together. I know we've got a Dropbox now on the site where we've got all of the other. So I'll pull out hopefully some good photos of that as well. So thank you very much, gents. So it's episode 60 as well next time, would you believe? Which is again, I think another tip off. I got a bit mad because again in my B52 you get Ferment magazine, and I was about to write a very, very strongly worded off to the edit, because again I get a bit pissed off with podcasts in that podcasts used to be great. It was people like us just doing it, and of course now virtually every podcast now is either one of Gary Lineker's, because he owns Goal Hanger podcast, so all of politics and history, and they're all his. Or the BBC and ITV podcasts, and that's not really what it was. And again, the Ferment had the top 20 beer podcasts, and they were all kind of just mainstream podcasts. And actually, 4 or 5 that don't even exist anymore. They've all packed in. Although I did write, it said December, it was issued in December 2023. So, but anyway, there we go. Rant over, because again, there aren't many left now. Quite a few are dropping away. So we'll carry on going. We've got to 60. We still are very rough around the edges. Well, that's what we enjoy, isn't it? And I've got to say the Wetherspoons one is hitting our records. I think I will get the stats this weekend, but I did look this week, and the Wetherspoons one was very, very popular for some reason. And in fact, we had some feedback for some friends who listen to us every week, and they did say, I think Nicholas having a few beers beforehand was quite a good idea, actually, because it kind of loosened him up slightly.
We didn't actually get into any discussion, really, did we?
Oh, I don't know, Nicholas. I think you vented a few.
I give plenty of reasons why Wetherspoons. I give plenty of reasons why Wetherspoons was to be supported, and Bruce went, well, yeah, I suppose I've got to agree with all those. And that was it. So
anyway, there we go. Right, I'm going to play the funky music. So we'll see you shortly. And I say I've titled the next episode as Behind the Door of Yorkshire's Willy Wonka Brewery. So make sure that you join us for that one.